went, Europe never went, India never went, nobody's going. And the recommitment back to the moon, they said, oh yeah, we're gonna go in 2022, 2024, and they just news, and we know it wasn't gonna happen. The news story just came out last week. Oh no, we're pushing it out to 2028. They just kick the can down so far now that there's two generations of people. There's two generations out there that since Apollo. How is that even possible? There's kids growing up it's ancient history, literally. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So why do you think they're not emitting it, or what was their purpose to?
Why even bother? Yeah, why hide it?
Yeah, why hide it?
The answer is it's more simple than you might think. In that, let's say what I'm saying here is that even our best and brightest didn't figure this thing out until about almost 1960. Meaning, because we didn't even have the technology to scope the whole thing out until about 1960. The internal combustion engine is about the turn of the century. NASA wasn't even founded until 1958. And then, but we still had ballistic missile capability, and we were using those from 1958 to 1962. We were firing atomic weapons straight up. So let's say you find out. Let's say you're the president of the United States or whoever, some high-ranking military official. You find out in 1960, it's like, holy smokes, we're actually living in a snow globe. Some sort of terrarium, planetarium, Truman show type thing. Do you tell the public? Well, it's a nice idea, maybe, but how does that benefit you in any way to tell them? Because there is a small percentage, that the people might panic, like what they did with Roswell in 1947. And, it's possible people could be walking through the streets with pitchforks and torches. So, and think about academically what might happen. Astrophysics and astronomy would have to shut down in every university in every country, and then all the physical sciences, geology, hydrology, biology, archaeology, those have to be rebuilt from the ground up. That's just academics. Economically, you'd have to suspend world trading for several months until you figured out what it meant to the world markets, and then of course the big one is the religious angle, which is, the five major religious houses of this world, Judaism, Hinduism, Buddhism, Islam, and Christianity, they all now have leverage against science. And you're asking them to show restraint. You're telling them, by the way, don't seek revenge out against the people that have been beating you over the head with textbooks for the last, 500 years. Well, that's a short meeting. It's like, we probably shouldn't tell anyone yet until we can figure this whole thing out and exactly how it would benefit us in the end. And so you build an infrastructure, and now we've got it. Now you've got high-speed internet, social media, 6 billion smartphones. Everything's ready, which is why, this is, I'm not doing this. This is not a solo project. It's a big community out there, and it just keeps growing, and no one's stopping us. I think it's being allowed to happen by the same people that hit it in the first place.
So what do you think is actually going on? Are we inside of a sphere? Are we, No, I think we're inside a box, a building, literally no different than a Hollywood soundstage. Again, with walls and a floor and a ceiling. Technically, yes, you could say it was a snow globe because we all love that envisionments of the dome over the top, but outside of that is probably a box, a giant building. Who was it built by? Well, you got me. See, it's one of two things: it's either a higher power or a higher civilization that's much older and much more powerful than ourselves, or the divine. You can only go one of two ways. But that's what I'm saying. Yeah, we're in a building. We always have been in a building. We're not in space. There is no space. We're probably on somebody's desk, somebody's coffee table for all I know. But it's definitely not, Carl Sagan said it best. He said, it's interesting because space, he goes, it seems a lot of wasted resources, because 99.999% of space is literally just nothing, not even molecules, if you believe what mainstream science says about space. So it seems very, very inefficient. The flat Earth model, which is basically, a giant snow globe terrarium, is very, very efficient, and it's much more intimate. The stars and the sun and the moon are all on the inside, and basically, to quote William Shakespeare, all the world's a stage. You're on it. Well, maybe we're like that one scene from Twilight Zone where the aliens captured this one little town, this village, and took it and gave it to his daughter, and they were her pets. But the
you remember that one?
Oh,
It's very good. Not a lot of people remember that episode. That was a really, and there was another. There's been several movies like that over the years. One of the more recent one was from 1998 was Dark City, which was along those lines. But yeah, who would know? I mean, all you have to remember, there's a line from the Truman Show which still resonates to me with me to this day, which is, people believe the world that is presented to them. You know, you're told this. I mean, there's a reason why, and I hate to break it to people out there. It's like, why do you think it's a globe? In fact, here, let me give you a quote real quick. There's a George Orwell quote. You know, George Orwell, the guy that wrote 1984, way back when. And he published something in a newspaper back in 1946, where he said, he goes, it's interesting. He goes, you go out to anybody in the street and you ask them how they know it's a globe. Their first response is always the same, which is what you're talking about. We know. It is known. It's a given. And then if you press them on it, you say, yeah, but how do you know? They start getting irritated because they all...
Uh-oh. Now we'll give it a second and see if he comes back.
Yeah, something happened.
Yeah. Well, we lost him. We're going to have to disconnect. And
What?
He came back just as I disconnected him. Isn't that horrible?
Yeah, Skype acting up, baby.
Yeah, well, let's get him back again. Sorry about that. We'll get him back on.
What happened?
You disappeared.
That's weird.
Okay, you know what happens, and I find it quite often if we talk weird things on the show, we talk about the government or we talk about conspiracies, strange things happen. And this is like
weird.
One of them. You just dropped out like you weren't there, and then as I hit the disconnect on the computer, there you were, but it was already being disconnected.
Huh? Because I could hear you the entire time.
Wow. Maybe
but
you were
that's all right.
being...
Anyway, so I left off probably with George Orwell.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Okay, so yeah, George Orwell basically said, how did everybody in the world know it was a globe in 1946? NASA wasn't even founded until 1958. So how does everybody know it's a globe? It's not that you know it's a globe. You've never been up there. You've never seen it from a distance. You were just told it was a globe. You were shown that toy in your classroom when you were 6 years old, and it stayed with you at least until you graduated from high school. And if you made it to university, it got worse from there. And so yeah, that's where we start. Where I ask everybody, it's like, how do you know you're on a globe right now? How? In fact, what I try to do is like prove it. Prove to me it's a globe without using NASA as a reference. And you say, well, because you got to throw them out. And it's like, why do you throw them out? It's like, well, NASA didn't invent the globe. It's not like they, because the first picture they took of it was in 1972. So if NASA is kind of out of the equation, how do you know? Well, there's only two arguments that people even use for a globe. So boats going over the horizon, and the sticks and shadows argument, which is geometry, and most people don't understand that anyway. But let's go with boats going over the horizon, right? No, that's like, well, we see the boat going. It's gone. It's gone over the curve. And 10 years ago, I would have, yeah, absolutely, right there with you. But HD technology changed that. HD cameras now have the resolution that boat's gone. You can zoom back in on the horizon. That boat's back in frame. And you can let it go again, and you can zoom and zoom and zoom until, the only thing that's stopping you from looking at it almost forever is the thickness of the atmosphere itself. We can see boats out at 50 miles easily, and that's way beyond the curvature. I've talked to military guys. It's like, oh, yeah, we're going, ship to ship with direct beam radar. There's no way we should be able to do that if there's a curvature of the Earth. It's just something we've overlooked.
Well, how about when I've been on air flights, and I could see the curvature of the Earth?
Oh, could you? I'll put the same challenge out to you that I've given everyone for 5 years, which is,
I want to know.
Well, if you've seen the curvature, take a picture of it, and then put it on your laptop. Before you send it to me, put a straight edge up to it. Tell me if you still see the curvature. I've never gotten a picture in 5 years, and I have gotten thousands and thousands of emails. The reason is it's kind of Orwellian, which is it's not that you see the curve, because not only have I seen people or had people say that they've seen it from an airplane. They've seen it from a mountaintop and even a beach. Amazing amount of people say they see the curve from the beach. I go, really? It's not that you see the curve; you want to see the curve. And that's a big, big difference. Again, take a picture of it. It's not there. In fact, Neil deGrasse Tyson, the world's most popular scientist, he's gone on record television multiple times because, the Red Bull jump, some years ago where Felix Baumgartner jumped out of that capsule at 120,000 feet. And it showed this severe curvature. And Neil says, no civilian will ever see the curvature. You can't get up high enough to see the curvature. So if you can't see the curvature from 130,000 feet, you certainly can't see it from a civilian airliner, which caps out at less than 40 usually. I mean, you can go up to 50, but 40 is usually a thing. It's weird. And trust me, I've heard that from many, many people. It's like, no, I can see it from an airplane. Fine. Show it to me. It's not that you see it. You want to see it. It's weird. I've done the same thing. You want to see the curvature because you've been told this your whole life.
Well, how about the people who claim we're not even physically alive? We're nothing more than, we're a program running in the metrics on a computer.
The simulation
chip.
theory?
Yeah.
Oh, no. I have no problem with the simulation theory. I mean, I grew up in the tech field. I know what we've been trying to do in the entertainment industry for years. And, for those people who are new to that, we're talking about the Matrix trilogy from the early 90s, the 13th floor, the late 90s, 13th floor from the late 90s, and other simulation movies, which is, could we be digital? Could we be part of a computer program? Absolutely we could. The only reason I start with flat Earth, in fact, in the last chapter of my book, I go into that, because if it's flat and it's enclosed, it's probably digital. And the thing is, most people don't understand it. The Matrix, is 21 years old now, and a lot of people still don't get it. Computer technology. I mean, we have smartphones, we have all this tech, we use it, but most of us, including me, don't know how most of it works. I only learned how to microwave work like 5 years ago. Technically, looked at the specs on it, but it absolutely could be a simulation, no question at all. But most of us out there, simulation, it doesn't resonate as much as flat Earth. Flat Earth is way more polarizing. But
well, if we're living in a box or a big building or whatever, it has to be really huge.
Oh God, yeah, it'd be 20,000 miles wide, but not as high as you might think. That's the big difference here. Is that you got to remember, most of our civilization lives in a very, very narrow band. Human beings, not only are we limited in temperature, we do not like, room temperature. There's a reason why we call it that, because that's what temperature we would like the room at. But we also, most of us live from sea level only about to a mile up, from 0 to 5,000 feet. That's 99% of our population. At 7,000 feet, altitude sickness starts kicking in. So this thing, and commercial airliners cap out at about 10 miles. Spy planes, if you believe what the Air Force tells you, maybe 20 miles. So even if you had a giant building that was 100 miles high, that's nothing. I mean, 20,000 miles wide and only 100 miles high, it's like a shallow sports stadium. That's all you'd need.
Okay, now we need to take a break. We'll be back in 2.5 minutes. So, if you want to get a cup of java or something, we'll be back talking about the flat Earth. So stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
Scintillas in the stream, hoping for what's true. I'm trawling for honor in this shallow pool. Borealis starlit crown arches over the Puget Sound. His hair drapes the horizon.